Okie dokie. So telesales, in-home sales, you know, it follows a process, a process of taking a client through, mentally taking them through the process. And however you do it, the submarine system is the way that we do it as far as getting the client to move them through the process of closing. And again, you know, coming out of this book, Asking Questions by Antonio Garrido, this talks about the process we take them through. And so, you know, you guys have seen it before. Call it the submarine process, and the 7 parts of it. And really what it is a way to take your client through the sales system, whether you're doing it on the phone or in the home. Starting out with bon rapport. Sure, I have this all down, and I know this. Upfront contract, right? Finding pain, budget, the decision process, fulfillment, and then post-sale. So really, whether you're doing it on the phone or in the home, they all go through this process. You're probably doing more on the phone when you're selling over the phone or on video, but eventually you take them through this whole process. You take the client through a process, and you can't really shortcut it. You can rearrange the sections, okay? And again, why it's called a submarine is that each compartment is in and of itself a thing you're trying to accomplish with them before you can move on to the next compartment. You know, it's kind of like in a submarine, you blow up this section of the submarine, you can close off both ends so that the whole submarine doesn't flood, right? So the idea of going through each compartment is you got to close each section before you can move on to the next one, right? That's the whole idea of taking them through. And what you get is someone who's wants to buy a policy, okay? They want it, right? And kind of the elements of what you're trying to accomplish really is answering the questions, okay? You know, the 5 elements. So this section, you're trying to develop trust with the client, and what happens, or the results of the trust you're developing with the client is that they'll believe you, right? How do you ever believe someone you don't trust? Okay, and if there's any section in here that is the foundation of all the sections, is bond and rapport, and you have to get it to a certain trust level before you can move on. And it does, the bond rapport continues, actually. It's kind of an underlying thing that goes through the entire sales submarine, right? Bond and rapport, because they got to trust you, okay? Now these, and you know, we can break it down by these sections. The upfront contract and the pain is, you know, that they need it. Do they really need it? Do they need it? And then this is, do they want it? Okay, you know, and I know that those are 2 different things. Needing it and wanting it are 2 different things. they might know they need it, but then they don't want it now. And we're trying to get them to the point where they want it now, they want to take care of it now. But you got to establish that they need it by the upfront contract and the paying. And then do they want it? You establish it that we can get into their budget. They agree they got a budget for it, and that they agree to our decision process of how we're going to decide that what product's going to work for them. Okay, the fulfillment section is, can they, here comes my dyslexia again, can they afford it, right? And then here, are they going to keep it? Okay. So you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We call this the 5 elements of a righteous sale. Do they trust you? Do they need it? Do they want it? Can they afford it? Are they going to keep it? See? So no matter what you're doing, whether you're selling over the phone or in the home, and some of y'all know what I'm talking about because you do this intuitively. Like if you've been selling any time and you've been successful at it, you've all really done this. You know, if you're successful, you've already used these elements. We're just codifying it for you in a process that can be repeatable. That's the problem with top salespeople. Very few in the Alliance over my 21 years has ever, a top producer, not many of them ever produce another top producer. It's very few. And the only reason why they get credit for a top producer is because someone else helped them. You know, because top producers, they don't understand why you can't do it like they do it. It's like, I don't understand. I mean, this is what this is how they coach, okay? It's like, I can do this. It's easy. How come you're not getting my results? And they neglect to remember when they got started how dumb they were and how, you know, how incompetent they were. And they forget that it took them 10, 15 years to be the experts that they are. They forgot that part, right? And this is the reason why a lot of top salespeople, you know, the biggest mistake corporations make is bringing their top salesperson in to become the sales manager, right? Because they have this attitude like, you guys are all dumb. I mean, this is easy for me. They can't duplicate themselves. Well, this is what I say. Well, it's not really what they say. They say it in that exact situation, but man, there's so many things that they do that they're not duplicatable. And so how good are you if you can just sell, but you can't help someone else sell? You're not duplicatable. Like, we don't really have much use for you other than you producing in the Alliance. You know what I mean? Like, keep producing, but man, don't be teaching people how to sell because you can't produce someone like yourself. Like when you look at some of the top coaches in the NBA, Chuck Daly, one of my favorite, you know, they might have played in college. Like Eric Spoelstra is a great example for the Miami Heat. Eric Spoelstra was never an NBA player. He started out his career as a videographer. He would get the videos so that the team could break down the video. Eric Spoelstra, who's won NBA championships as a coach, right? A lot of these coaches, great coaches, were never like awesome players. You know, they were maybe good players. They played in college, but they were like not like, you know, Larry Bird tried to coach, and he had some amount of success. Oh, Magic Johnson, man, that couldn't coach. He couldn't coach a team out of a paper bag, man. He sucked as a coach. Larry Bird was okay. You know, again, these top superstars have difficulty reproducing what they do. Okay, so that's why we put it in a process that's duplicatable, where you can start using this and then you start grooving into your own style, right? That's why when you try to teach someone what you're doing, there's only going to be so much you can do, because you've already put all your nuances in there that are particular to your personality and to your style, and you think everyone can do it like I can do it. Well, maybe, but they don't have your personality. You're a different personality than them. They can sort of hear kind of what you do. And that's, you know, people want to do ride-alongs. I'm all for ride-alongs. I'm all for listening to people do it, you know, but sometimes it has an opposite effect, right? Because someone will ride with somebody and they go, holy crap, I can't do that. See, and what that guy, the salesperson, what they forgot is they needed to go back to how they did it in a very basic way, strip it out, right? It's kind of like when you watch me recruit. When I'm aware someone's watching me recruit, I should be more thoughtful of this. I don't say half the things I normally say because you can't say what I can say. You know what I'm saying? That was weird. Redundancy, Department of the Redundancy Department. Okay. So that's why top people, they just, you know, they just expect it. So, you know, I'm all for ride-alongs, but sometimes ride-alongs can be very negative because the person that's showing you is showing you their 15 years of experience. They're not showing you the basics that got them to have repeatable results. You know what I mean? They're performing in front of you in their magic way, and they can't teach the magic because it's the magic, but they don't teach the fundamental, you know. So sometimes when I recruit, I'm dumb. I mean, I'm like, so how's the weather where you are? Wow, man, it's nice here in Dayton, or it's cold here in Dayton. I mean, start out with stupid stuff like that, very basic stuff. Otherwise, if you see how I really recruit, you probably would never think you could ever recruit anybody, right? So here, this is where we try to keep it basic for you. So you know what you're trying to accomplish at each phase in the process, right? Like I said, this book really covers everything, and I've got hours of videos on each one of these alone. But the bond rapport thing is the most important step in the process. And you guys know what I'm talking about. You know, after a certain point where you got some good juju with them, getting to know them, getting to understand them. And I think that's probably what you saw from Junior, Don. Junior is one of the best. He talks to people like he's known them forever. In a really forward way, too. He'll say stuff that is just outrageously assumptive, outrageously like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that to the client. And he's kind of this young kid, and he doesn't mind getting into that awkwardness, you know, a familiarity. But he does it.
Mom and dad and you know, all that. I thought that was, it just shows he's built a good relationship with them.
Yeah. By the way, Don, he does that on the first call on a lead.
Is that right? Yes.
Oh, I'm not kidding. You'll sit there going, holy crap, how can he get away with this? But he's got that.
He's only 27, so he probably could get away with it for most of them.
Yeah, he's got it, this childlike heart.
Yeah,
if you get to know him, he's just like that. He's funny that way. But so little things, this is a technique, right? This is not predicated on you being, you know, some psychologist, but there are actual techniques for you to create bond rapport with clients. For example, speaking at their rate of speech. It's the mirror matching thing, right? Where if they talk slow, you better talk slow like they're talking slow. You start talking fast, they're going to think you're a damn Yankee trying to hoodwink them, you know? And if you're in the South, you know how Southerners talk. I hate to sound categorical in that statement, Scott Mills, but how many Southerners talk like a New Yorker, right? So I'm just trying to draw analogies. I mean, do you guys understand what I'm talking about? If you are a Southerner trying to talk to a New Yorker, man, you just can't, they can't catch up with each other, because what a Northerner will do, a fast talker, I'll just say a fast talker will do, is they'll try to speed you up. If they think you're talking slow, they'll talk faster because they want you to speed up with them. which the guy that's talking slow is trying to slow down even worse because he's trying to slow you down. Do you see how the miscommunication happens? It is hilarious. So the client is king, right? So when they talk slow, then you better talk slow. And here's the thing, I promise you, you record yourself, and you should record yourself every time you talk to clients. You can play it back. You think you're talking slow. I promise you, you are not even halfway there yet. Because even just a little bit, trying to pause between your words will drive you so crazy that you're going to want to talk fast again. You have to work at it. Likewise, do you ever try to catch up to someone who speaks fast? Like if your client speaks fast, oh my gosh, your brain is just trying to catch up to you trying to speak fast, let alone listening to them. You're trying to unpack what they just said in that little snippet of time. And you're just like, whoa, hold on, let me think for a minute what you just said. But you have got to match their rate of speech. You have got to. I do not suggest that you copy accents unless you authentically have that accent. And so what I mean is, you know how people from the South move up north, they get enough Yankees enough, they sound so Northern, their Southern drawl just gets eliminated until they go down south for vacation. And then it comes back, right? When you're around people that talk like that, it just comes back, right? So if you authentically have it, then use it. If you don't fake it, okay? Any little thing that you can do to draw bridges between you and them, because people like people who are like them. And I try to be like people. I try to be the chameleon. Look, man, this fat Filipino dude that looks like me, man, I can go to any redneck's house and I promise you, man, we're gonna be hugging each other. We're gonna be just like friends, real close friends by the time we're done, you know. And some of it, I kind of know what I do. It just happens naturally anyway. You know, I'm big on the yes ma'am, yes sir. You know, when you're in Rome, do what the Romans do. You know, down the South, man, they have respect. The respect comes out of the yes sir, yes ma'am. I learned that in military. You know what I mean? So you're doing all that, you know. And if it's an older person, then you call her Miss Jenny. Don't call her, hey Jenny, you know. And you're like 25 years old, and she's like, you know, 76. You just like, hey Jenny, how you doing? It's like, hey Miss Jenny. You know, I mean, there's that when you address them with proper titles. There's something cool about that, my opinion, right? Scott, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, there's that element, right? So if you guys are selling in other states, like, don't just assume that you want everyone to be like you. You need to be like them as much as possible. And it's amazing how you can be. You totally can be like them. The other way to be like them is to use their words, okay? And what I mean by using their words. Okay, this is in bond rapport. This is my bond rapport class. So we talked about mirror matching. The other one is VAC, visual audio kinesthetic. Okay, this is a deep one here, okay? And I just want to introduce you auditory and kinesthetic. We're getting into NLP stuff, not neurolinguistic programming stuff. But I promise you, man, if you want to be a professional in the business, if you never get bond and rapport down, you'll never get the other ones down. You might get lucky, but I tell you what, you will expand your closing rate and the people you relate to when you can get the techniques of bond and rapport down. Okay, like really, I'm serious. I've got this video called what is it? The Ultimate in Bond and Rapport. It's out there. I mean, if you look up bond and rapport on my channel, you'll see it. But people can generally, like, this is about 80% of the people out there can be lumped into visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, meaning the way that people take information in. Like everyone says, oh, everyone's visual, everyone's visual. Well, there's a certain element in the data processing part in your brain that pictures things, right? But when you take information in, it's not necessarily visual. People process incoming information in one of three ways: visually, auditory, or kinesthetically. Visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So what do I mean by use their words? Well, people that, bless you.
Thank you.
If you can mute yourself, that would be wonderful. So I don't have to mute you. Anyway. Okay, so this is one of the keys to communication in such a big way. You have no idea how powerful and effective it is. But listen to how people talk. Visual people, they tend to talk faster because they're trying to keep up with the images. Their mouth is trying to catch up. So they speak faster. They tend to be visual. The other thing visual people use, they use visual words in how they speak. And this is how you know. It's like, huh, I see what you're saying, Alex. Golly, you know, I can imagine what that would feel like. They use visual words in the way they talk. There's like a bunch of, oh man, where's one of my awesome NLP books? This book is a great book on NLP. If you want to find like NLP basics, this one is a really good book. Develop your NLP skills. I've given this to some of my, you know, my manager buddies, the guys that are a little bit more in the advanced recruiting mode. This is like the basics, but where is that? Well, I mean, you guys can think of visual words. Like they'll say, you know, you see a lot. They describe things, you know, very visually, but they use those kind of visual words. Auditory is, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. They use, I hear you. Even when you say something or that's, yeah, I hear it. They use auditory words, and auditory people process things via sound, right? And then kinesthetic is, man, that hits me like a ton of bricks. Oh, that's powerful. You know, they use feeling type words, right? Really sensory feeling type words. So if they use those words, then you need to repeat those type of words back at them. So when someone's a visual, you say, now, Joe, I want you to imagine, can you see Mary when you're no longer here? Can you see how Mary, Jody, Buffy, and William are going to have difficulty staying in the home? Can you see that? Dude, for a visual person, man, they are seeing it because you're using the visual words back at them. It's like, man, try talking Mandarin to someone who speaks Cantonese. Even though it's Chinese, they won't understand each other because it's a different dialect. You know what I mean? It's like this, you're speaking English, but man, if you're not speaking their language, you're speaking Chinese to them. They're not going to get you as much as if you start using their words for them, not against them. Auditory. So when you're presenting the quotes, it's how does this sound to you? So I gave you those three options. Which option sounds the best to you? Right? Those are auditory words, and it just resonates with them. They don't know why they like you, but the reason why they like you, even though they don't know it, is because you're speaking their language. You know what I mean? Kinesthetic. So here's the three options. How does this feel? Does this feel right? These are feelers, man. These, how you know you, and people use a variety of these sometimes, but these guys use words like, man, it just doesn't feel right, Alex. You know, oh man, that hits me just really wrong. That just hits me wrong. The auditory says, man, that does not sound good to me, right? You hear it in everyday speech. Now what you need to do is categorize it so that you can, like, boom, this guy's visual. This guy's so visual, man. I'm going to use visual on him. Here's a, this book is so good. I forgot how really good this book is. Okay, so here's another way. Like seriously, man, I love teaching this stuff because this stuff works. So your next job is to find out what your spouse, how your spouse and children are. Okay. Alex, what are you doing? Drawing smiley faces. Well, this is a reason. The way that our brains are hooked up, this is one really cool thing, okay? God has built us. If you want to, like some of y'all, the divine engineer, rhetoric for why God exists, right? People use the divine engineer, which is really cool. Way to explain the existence of God. I don't know if y'all ever get into that, but it's really cool, divine engineer. Well, the ultimate divine engineer, when you imagine our systems and how our body works and how the different hormones and proteins do their job to make this body function, it is amazing to me. Like those of you who are diabetic, you know how important insulin is? Well, those of us who aren't diabetic, we take insulin for granted, right? Well, you diabetics, no, you've developed a tolerance for your body producing insulin. So you need some extra something to process, you know, the fine sugars that come into your body. Do you see how, like, it's amazing, amazing, amazing. So God wired us up this way too, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So the other way to find out if someone's visual is how they dart their eyes around. Okay. So this is when you're looking at somebody. So when you're looking at someone straight up, auditory people tend to look up. They tend to look up this way or this way. There's actually, or they stare straight forward, but you can tell that they're processing information visually. So they look up either way. They look up. People that are auditory, so this is visual, auditory, kinesthetic. They look to the side, both sides to process information. And then kinesthetic people look down. They tend to look down. And here's how it's really cool. If you want to get an audience to visualize something, tell them to look up. Like, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to look up and I want you to imagine the colors of your high school uniforms, your school colors, right? You help them imagine visualizing by telling them to look up, okay? Auditory people, they kind of look at their ears in a weird way. They're processing things through sound. They kind of dart their eyes sideways. And then kinesthetic people look down, and it's kind of like how they feel down here. They're kind of looking down. And it's a really weird thing. And this is true all over the world, no matter what language. It's really fascinating stuff. This is Bandler and Grinder, who invented this, not invented it, but discovered it. Okay, so the visual person, okay, if you want to know how you can tell if someone's lying to you, like I'm not kidding, this works so well. So if they look to the left, okay, this is called, they're imagining it. They're trying to, like if I say, imagine what it would be like living in the house of your dreams on the beach. You're imagining something that does not really exist. So you're making something up in your head if you're visual. Auditory, you're hearing how that is, which is weird when you think, well, how do you hear it? You hear the beach. Auditory people will hear the seagulls. It's just part of they'll see the house, but they'll also hear the house. They'll hear, you know, and then kinesthetic people, while they're seeing it, they're feeling that feeling of, oh, that would be so awesome, okay? But they all do it to the left. Recall is they're recalling a memory. So if I said, tell me about your wedding day. When you made your vows to your spouse, take me back to when you were right there with them. And visual people are going to look up to the right. So they're recalling a true event. So if you ever want to catch your kids lying, right? Watch where their eyes go. Because if you say, hey, Athen, man, did you spill all this water all over the floor? And if he goes, looks to the right, he's, no, I didn't do that, right? But if he looks to the left and he says, well, I don't know, maybe Maddie did it. You can catch people in lies too, but generally when you're looking up, they're visual. When you're looking sideways, they're auditory. And when they're looking down, they're kinesthetic. You can't get away from it because that's what happens. And then people that kind of exhibit, and everyone does a little bit of each, but the predominant one always comes out. And think about it. I've watched people, you've got to be on your game. When you are in the home, you got to be on your game. And this is all the tool. I use these tools, man. I use these tools because it helps me unlock their brain and get inside their head. This is how I get inside my client's head, is using this. Do you see what a disadvantage is when you're on the phone? I'd rather you be on a video with them so you can kind of see. So when you're asking your clients questions, you can kind of tell if they're lying to you about their health, especially if they're looking to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. To the right, we're calling their medications, or their, you can tell they're probably telling you the truth. But man, this works, this works, this works, okay? I used to have fun with my agents, like in the Amway business. So we'd be sitting there, and so our server would come up, and I'd teach them this. I go, okay, so check this out. So I talked to the server, and I asked her, so did you go to high school around here? She goes, oh yeah, I went to, what high school did you go to? Well, I went to American high school. Oh, you did? Ah, so what colors were your high school colors? And then if they look up, they're trying to remember what those colors were. If they look to the side, they're trying to hear, like they're recalling something. And then kinesthetic, you can always find out. And then I tell them, okay, now listen to how she answers my questions. And then these words will come out. Anyway, it's a fun parlor trick, but I tell you what, you will close more sales because you've mastered this whole notion of visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Powerful. I'm serious. I'm not kidding, man. This is the next level up. If you want to get your closing rates high, this will do it for you, for sure. Anyway, so you get them to trust you, right? The whole idea of the upfront contract is to get them to know that they're in control, even though you're in control. What do you mean, Alex? Either they're in control or I'm in control. I'm always in control because I'm a sales professional here, not them. But the true master of sales makes them think they're in control. So the upfront contract part is saying, okay, Joe, I mean, you sent this in. I see it was, some time ago. Let me tell you kind of what the process is from here on out, so you know that so I can help you, right? So here's the biggest thing. Anything that just doesn't jive with you, you can just shut it down, okay? I'm not here to force anything on you. All I'm trying to do is figure out how I can help you. And the only way I can do that is by asking you a lot of questions. And if you think this is going south, you think this is not really what you want to do, then you can just like call time out and call it quits. I'm just here to help you. Does that make sense? You're like totally in control of this entire process. Make sense, Joe? You see what you did? You gave them control, except you're in control because you're asking them questions. So you got permission to ask them questions, but you make sure that they're in control of the process. That is all a client wants to know, is that you're not some jerk off salesperson trying to take away their freedom of choice, and that you're going to hoodwink them, you're going to talk them into something. You know, they're it's that whole idea of clutching their checkbook, clutching their purse, because they don't want to open it up, because you're a sales guy trying to open it up and trying to get them to spend something on something they don't want. I mean, you guys know that, right? So you're trying to break down the barriers, and sales starts out, bond and rapport is about breaking down barriers. Once you get this level of trust, right, then we tell them that they're in control. You're in control. You know, I'm just here to ask you questions so I can figure out what's the best program for you. It seems like you really, you know, when you sent this in, it's something that you really wanted. So I just want you to know that, are you okay with that? Does that sound good to you? Sound, remember, auditory? How's that look? Does that look okay? How's that feel? Do you see how you can use visual, auditory, kinesthetic? Once you kind of get a feel for them on the bond and rapport, do you see how this rocks? They're in control, and they're like, golly, man, I totally understand this guy. I really like this person, you know? And some of y'all that I've recruited, you know I've used this on you, don't you? You know I use this on you. I mean, you should think back to when I first recruited you. Like, golly, man. Think about how you felt. You probably felt like you could trust me. The stuff I was saying, I believed in, right? Because I do. I mean, oh, by the way, I totally use this in all you guys. And it's not manipulation. It is kind of, but it's kind of in a good way, in a positive way, right? Because I'm trying to create bond and rapport with you when I'm interviewing you. So the upfront contract, you're in control. Pain finding. So we want to know that they need it. So we give them permission to say, hey, you can shut it down. Now, Joe, when you sent this in, what was it that was on your mind? And this is where you use the take me back to. And this is where you know, it's kind of like when I say, take me back on your wedding day, the first dance between you and your spouse. What was the song that was playing? You know how powerful that is? Take me back to when you first got married and that first dance, when you guys did your first dance. What was the song that you were playing? And I tell you what, man, some of y'all on this call went back to that. You went there. And when you were there, you started like, if I continue talking about it like I'm a therapist, so tell me what it was like. What did that feel like to you? The first dance. What song was playing? Okay, so auditory people are all over that. What did it look like? What did the room look like? You know, how did you feel? Man, you're like, oh, see, I'm just asking you these questions and you're just like, boom, 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 boom. Because I am too. I'm thinking about my first dance, me and Ginny. It was hot because the air conditioning went down in our reception. But we didn't care. Pain finding. Take me back to when you first filled this out. What was on your mind? What were you thinking about? Man, you are like, it's not like, what, it's not, you're not asking, what did you think about yesterday when you weren't thinking about it before I called, right? You're not telling them to, you know, you're take me back to when you first filled this out. And you can use stuff like, were you in the kitchen? Do you remember if you were in the kitchen, or is that when you open your mail? And then what you do is you're so describing, open the mail, you know, you're so describing taking them back, and they go back there. It's like, what were you thinking about? What was on your mind? And then you start opening up the gates of pain, finding why they felt that, well, we just, you know, we're looking for, you know, it seems interesting. We want to, you know, people aren't going to open up right away. So you got to drill the pain question, drill the pain questions. Well, what did you want this to do for you? Well, you know, when I die, Alex, I just want to make sure my family's going to be okay. So people start out with wishy-washy words that don't mean anything, right? It means something only, it just sounds like they're telling you what you want to hear. And it's like, man, they have no clue what I want to hear, right? What I want to hear is I want to hear the emotional need, not the logical need. Well, Alex, I want to make sure that my family can still stay in the home. They can pay the house off and then they have no problems. It's like, dude, come on, man. Let's get down to where you feel something. So you got to drill down pain questions. You got to keep asking pain questions. This is skill right here that you got to master. Well, what does that mean? You want to define terms. This is one of the easiest ways to find questions is to define, well, what does that mean okay to you? What does okay mean to you? That one, I tell you what, man, it's kind of like your child, Daddy, why is the sky blue? Well, son, because there's an atmosphere, it is a reflection of, the water and the earth. The earth is made up of, you may even not know, but you're just like, why? So why is that, Daddy? Why is that? Why is that? And you're trying to figure out all this. And then you eventually say, because God made it that way. Let's go to McDonald's and get you a chicken nugget meal. Let's get you a Happy Meal. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Your kids can just be the most curious people. You are curious. So what does okay mean to you? Make sure your family's okay. Well, I just want to make sure that they can stay in the house. Oh, so they're going to lose you, but they're also going to lose your income, right? Again, question, you're in control. Well, yeah. So do you make a majority of the income, 75% of the household income, 50%? What? Yeah, give me a ballpark. What do you think? Oh man, I make 100% of the income. Oh, see how you react to what they say says so much. It's like, oh, really? Alex, you are just emotionally manipulating your client. You betcha. You betcha. I'm in control, right? Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Huh. About how much is that? Just round numbers. Okay. Don't ever ask them exactly how much are you making. When you say ballpark round numbers, it's such a non-invasive question because you're going to have to ask that question anyway later. I make about 100,000 a year. Oh, really? I tell you what, man, sales is so much fun. Oh, really? I can't do it with a straight face. Oh, man. Well, so what is Mary going to do? Don't say, what is your wife? What is your spouse going to do? You got to personalize it, baby. You got to know the names of the kids. So what is Mary going to do? What's Buffy, Jody, and William going to do? Don't say, what is your spouse and children going to do? Come on, man. You're not a robot. You got to know their names. Oh, well, they're just going to have a hard time. So tell me, what's hard time mean? What does hard mean? Well, my wife is probably going to have to go back to work. Oh, okay. She'll have to go back to work. Well, I'm sure she probably has a lot of skills. She probably can she'll probably find another six-figure job based on what she's done in her work life, right? Okay, that's called a negative reverse, man. This is how you get them. You're digging pain. You are digging pain. Negative reverse. You got to read about negative reversing. You do a few negative reverses and your pain finding will be expert. It's in your negative reversing. What is negative reversing? This is where you go one way. In fact, this is such an important skill. I'm just introducing it, but it's called the pendulum. And then this is where they buy, and then this is where they say pound sand to you. When you negative reverse, see, all salespeople want their clients to buy, so they do features and benefits. Oh, your wife can't afford to stay in the home, And this policy is going to pay 100,000 and pay off your mortgage tax free. And you're trying to pull. Well, the momentum when you're trying to pull up a pendulum is it goes back to the pound sand. Okay. The momentum of you trying to pull them up here, they go the opposite. So negative reversing is pulling you this way. Like you're not trying to sell the policy. And then what happens? The client sells themselves on the policy. You see how the pendulum thing works? So negative reversing gets behind, we call them get behind them. Like, and we try to pull them this way. And then we get them to the momentum of buying. So, well, I'm sure your wife can get a job and make up all that income, right? Alex, she's been out of the workforce for 10 years. You know, she was a managerial accountant, and man, there's no way. Well, I mean, just ballpark me. What do you think? What kind of job do you think she can get? See, now I'm treading on territory because they know how the environment is. And the last thing she did was, well, I don't, you know, whatever. He doesn't know if she can get a job. Oh, I don't know. And she's sitting right there with you. So you turn to Mary and you, Mary, what do you think you can, how much do you think you can get if you're going back in the workforce? And she's just staring at you going, holy crap, I don't even want to think about it. See how the pain starts getting intense? It starts getting intense. And they're like going, holy crap, we got to take care of this. See, they never thought about this before when they filled this. They were just kind of seeing how much it cost, but they have not thought about this. I promise you. Only time they thought about it is because God sent you to them to ask them the hard questions. Now they're thinking about it. So you just negative reverse them. Well, I'm sure, Mary, well, you probably have family that can help pay the mortgage, don't you? Like your parents, and you've got siblings that can help, you know, or maybe you have savings that could probably keep you in the house for, what, another couple of years? You are freaking negative, sorry for substitute cussing. You are negative reversing them till they're like, you know, I don't know, red. What's the color for pain? They are red with pain. They are in the red, you know, like in your hospital. Point me, which smiley face and color here are you on the pain spectrum? You know, you're getting them to the smiley face, the frown that's upside down. 10, he's down 10. Alex, you're having too much fun trying to get people pain. Gang, it's kind of fun. And you're very serious and solemn. Oh, I don't know. There's no one that's going to pay for our mortgage. Oh. Let it ring, man. Let it ring. Let it ring. Don't be coming back right away. Let the power of those words fall into Joe's brain and heart. When he hears his wife going, I don't know. We don't have the money to do that. Oh boy. And you keep, I keep going. So you probably can move in with your parents. Is that, you know, how, or no, before this, like how long can you stay in your house before the bank takes it? It's just like, man, I don't want to hear this. How long do you think you can stay in your house before the bank takes it? Well, I don't know. 6 months. They'll probably sell it before then. Oh. So you could probably get a lot of equity out of the house, right? To be able to, you know, get you into a smaller place. Man, you're talking to someone who just got a mortgage. How much equity? You know, maybe 20% equity. You know, maybe there's a little bit something, but they're not thinking about that. Do you see how you are finding need? They need this. They really need this. When you're amping it up, asking negative reverse questions. And honestly, gang, the only way you can get to this intimate type of conversation is when you've done the bond rapport right. They will let you in their world when you are compassionate. You're not a jerk. You're asking it you're asking it very nurturingly. You're nurturing it. You're not a jerk. You've got that soft DJ voice, that therapist voice. You're asking it very sincerely, with a lot of solemnity to it. And, you just really want to help them out. And you're just here to help them out. Do you see how I went into my DJ voice? Soft and warm, the quiet storm, 1290 KBLX, San Francisco. Yeah, I listened to that station when I was in high school. And out in the Air Force too. Anyway, it's already what, 12? Look, gang, this is where you win and lose primarily. This is probably like 80% of the sale is done in these 3 sections. Everything else is just kind of monkey. You still can lose it. You got to still lock it in. This is the 20% of the sale is in these, but 80% is right here, man. Because if you ain't got bond and rapport, Alex, you're a college graduate and master's degree. Why do you use that word? Because it's an emphasis word. If you ain't got bond and rapport, you'll never get the upfront contract in pain. But if you got good bond and rapport, then you can get the upfront contract because they know they can trust that you're serious, that they can end it, and they're in control when, in fact, you're in control. And then you start asking the pain questions, baby. It's all over but the shouting. Anyway, so whether you're on the phone or in the home, it's still the same process. You know what I'm saying? It's still the same process. Maybe on the phone before you book the second appointment, you're really doing this right here before you book it. When you're booking for in-home, you're just barely here. You're kind of doing a couple of these things, but you're in the early part when you're booking an appointment, right? And then when you go there into the home, you're doing the rest of it. When you're on the phone, you're getting a lot of this done before if you have to do another appointment, you're probably right here or just like half of the pain, right? And then when you meet with them again, you're doing the rest of it. Or some of y'all can get to right here in the first part of a telesale, and then here on the second appointment, which I would recommend that you get as much done as you can on the phone so that your second appointment, they show up and you got it. The further you can get down the road on a telesale, if you have to do a second appointment, a higher percentage of them are going to show up. See, so whether you're doing it over the phone or in the home, you got to follow this. And it's in the post boot camp, my 1 hour, I think it's an hour and 15. I go into these in detail. But the stuff I covered today, you could be really, really good just those 3 things. Again, like you said, it's 80%. So anyway, gang, we're done. I hope that made perfect sense. I hope so. But man, you can have fun with this and you get better. And there's some really good books that you can get, Develop your NLP skills. This is a really good primer on neurolinguistic programming. This will definitely help you improve your relationship with your spouse, your kids, anyway. Asking questions, also the foundational book to our system. Okay, so you know what your homework is. I want you to go back and I want you to figure out what your spouse and your children are and how, when you ask them questions, find how their eyes move when they're trying to remember something, and then what kind of words do they use to describe stuff? Is it visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? Scott says, that's why I like door knocks. Bond report. Yeah, amen, brother. Amen, brother. All right, gang, we're done. Man, have a holy Thursday, have a good Friday, have a holy Saturday, and then Easter. But man, tomorrow, take time out to spend time with your Lord to number one, know that your sins put him up there, but he's willing to die for them, to clean your robe, to make it white. And it only comes out of this sense of knowing that the only grace you have is grace is unmerited favor. But the reason why you're able to receive it is because your faith that he did it for you, right? And it's this sense of humbleness and gratefulness. And out of that humbleness and gratefulness, when they put him on the cross, Good Friday, that you remember it with reverence and understand the power of what he did for you. And I think that's all God wants, is us to remember that. Remember how grateful we are. You know what I'm saying? And that he blessed you with the faith. Some people don't have it, man. Some people still question it. But he blessed you with the faith that he did this for you. So, man, make Good Friday just as important as Easter Sunday. Okay? So I'd ask you to do that. Rock on. Let's do this thing. God bless you all. And thanks for being on here.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.